Hello everyone and welcome to this session. So today IMA conducted MAT examination across India and we have taken feedback from several of our students and we have compiled analysis of the examination. So let's get started with it. To begin with, the examination apparently was conducted in a very smooth manner. We have got positive feedback from most of our students. One or two students did face technical glitches, but the invigilators promptly addressed those glitches and the examination resumed and they were able to attempt the examination comfortably. Now let's have a look at the pattern of the exam. So in this exam there were 5 sections and every section had 30 questions each. That means a total of 150 questions were there in the examination, and in order to complete these 150 questions, time allocated was 120 minutes. So 120 minutes and 150 questions, that implies that the test taker had to go very fast and attempt questions at a brisk pace. Now as far as marking scheme of the exam is concerned, it was mentioned that for every correct answer they will award 1 mark, and for every wrong answer 0.25 mark would be deducted. So 1/4 negative marking was there. Hence it was advisable for students not to indulge in guesswork. Alright, but as far as your scores in the exam are concerned, usually the scores will be revealed in the range of 200 to 800. That means scaling will happen later on. Now, as far as number of options are concerned, there were 4 options for each of the questions provided and only 1 option was correct. Now let's look at each of the sections one by one. Let's start with language comprehension, or in other words English section. Now this section, it was pretty simple questions were there in this section. To begin with, there were 2 RC passages which had a total of 10 questions. 5 questions each were there in 2 RC passages. One of the passage was based on smartphones and the benefit of using smartphones and internet, as well as certain ramifications of the same. This particular reading comprehension passage, though the questions were very easy and straightforward, the length of the passage was slightly on the higher side. The other passage was based on nutritional value of eating a breakfast. This was comparatively shorter passage, and the questions in both the passages were very straightforward, and it would have definitely made sense for students to attempt both the RC passages and they would have been able to do it very comfortably. Now the other 20 questions, they tested the language skills of students. So there were questions based on synonyms, and there were questions based on antonyms also. Anybody who had prepared well for vocabulary would have found these questions very much doable. Probably you can say they were of moderate difficulty level. Time students who have gone through the study material that time has provided would have found them very comfortable to deal with. Apart from that, there were also questions based on fill in the blanks, but these questions again, you can say they were very easy questions. Very comfortably students would have been able to attempt them. Para-jumbles questions were there. These questions again were of moderate difficulty level. People who had good reading habit would have found them convenient to deal with. Para-summary questions, though they were also easy, but the options, the way they were framed, that's what made these questions of moderate difficulty level. Word substitution questions were there. These questions were of moderate difficulty level. Idioms and phrases were also there, and out of those questions, one of them was easy, other 2 were of moderate difficulty level. Hence we are classifying them as easy to moderate. One thing to notice out here is none of the questions can be classified as difficult questions in this section. So all in all, we can say well prepared students out of 30 questions would have been able to comfortably attempt around 25 questions. Now let's go to the next section, intelligence and critical reasoning section. So this section had questions from variety of topics, variety of chapters. To begin with, there were 2 sets, one set on comparison based puzzle, another set on distribution based puzzle. Both the questions were very comfortable, very straightforward, and any student who would have done enough practice with distribution and comparison topic would have been able to finish them very comfortably and very conveniently. These two were must attempt sets in this section. Apart from this, a lot of critical reasoning questions were there. Questions were based on cause and effect. There were questions based on statements and assumptions, statements and conclusions. These questions, they were not difficult, but they can be classified as easy to moderate in terms of difficulty level. And definitely majority of the students would have been able to attempt most of these questions comfortably. There were a couple of questions based on coding, decoding. There were also a couple of questions based on linear arrangement also, wherein you had to arrange people in a row. Number of people were mentioned who were sitting on the left, number of people sitting to the right, and that was also very comfortable to deal with. So overall, you can say this was an easy section, and any good student would have been able to attempt more than 25 questions. So 25 to 28 is a range of attempts that a good student would have been able to conveniently make in this section. The next section was mathematical skills. Now this section again had very short and sweet questions, very easy to read kind of questions. Again, a wide array of chapters which touched upon. A good number of questions appeared from arithmetic maths. Generally, people who are from non-mathematical background, they find arithmetic maths very comfortable to deal with. So was the case in this year's math also. You had questions from topics like, you had questions based on time and work, time and distance. These questions were very much comfortable and straightforward, and student would have been able to solve them very comfortably. Apart from this, simple interest questions, simple interest, compound interest questions were there. These questions, you can probably say, that they were of moderate difficulty level. Same was the case with permutations and combination based questions also. They were also of moderate difficulty level. Probability based question, one question was there wherein the examiner said that numbers were written on playing cards, numbers 100 to 199, and the question was, what is the probability of picking up a number which is not a square, perfect square? It's a very simple, straightforward question, and student would have been able to do it very comfortably as such. So all in all, you can say this was a section that was on easy to moderate difficulty level. We can't say it completely easy, but easy to moderate difficulty level. And a good student would have been able to attempt anywhere between 20 to 22 questions in this section. Now, data analysis and data sufficiency is the next section. Now, the questions from data sufficiency were very straightforward, and definitely the students would have found them very much doable. In fact, you could have attempted every single one of them comfortably. One thing that students had to bear in mind was there was no need to find the answer, because obviously it's a data sufficiency question. That made life very comfortable for the student. Having said that, there was one question in data sufficiency where a little bit of ambiguity was there, but otherwise it was a very much straightforward kind of set of questions. The data interpretation questions, on the other hand, even though they were also straightforward, but the problem was they were time consuming. And these were traditional data interpretation questions. So students who might have written other exams like CAT, etc., they would have found them to be a welcome change, because these were conventional data interpretation questions. There was a set based on bar graph, there was another set based on pie chart, there was another set based on line graph also. But these questions, though they were easy, but they did take a little bit of time to compute and solve. So probably it would have made sense for students to have gone through the DI questions, and they should have carefully handpicked some of the ones which could have been slightly more easy to solve in less amount of duration. Finally, there were 5 questions based on quantitative comparison also. These questions were must attempt. They simply tested basic understanding of the student and basic mathematical operations. As long as student is able to do them comfortably, would have been able to manage those questions very easily. So all in all, we can say, because of data interpretation being time consuming, we can say a well-prepared student would have been able to attempt anywhere between 15 to 20 questions comfortably in this section. Now let's go to the last section of the exam. So the last section was economic and business environment. So economy and business environment section, the name itself gives you a sense. All the questions pertained only to Indian economy, and the business environment that exists in our country. Now these questions were very tricky in nature. The reason I say they are tricky is because an average student who doesn't have a habit of reading business section of newspaper would have struggled with most of these questions. But anybody who constantly has been going through the business section of newspaper, or time students who have been going through MBA Education and Career magazine, would have found this section doable. But if I think from the point of view of an average student, they would have surely struggled with this particular section because the questions were slightly tricky in nature. There were questions based on government policies. There were also questions which tested your awareness about business terminology, as well as business concepts were tested. Concepts like marginal cost, for example, concepts related to demand and supply, for example, concept related to inflation, for example. So they were questions which tested your conceptual clarity also. There were also questions, some questions based on banking sector also, and business terminology also was tested. So all in all, this can be classified as the toughest section in MAT exam this year. And you can probably say overall 10 attempts out of 30 can be considered to be good number of attempts in this section. Now, what is the final takeaway from this? See, when you look at the exam in its entirety, and also bearing in mind that the 2 hours is the duration, right? Keeping that factor in mind, probably you can say a good number of attempts would be anywhere between 95 to 105 out of 150 questions in MAT. So if you were able to attempt 95 to 105 questions, but with good accuracy, mind you, the accuracy should be good. A good accuracy, you would have sailed through the exam and you would have come out with flying colors. And you would have definitely got calls from all MAT-based business schools. All right. So I hope you got a good amount of idea about the examination. If you like this analysis, please do share it with other friends who might have appeared for MAT exam or who might be planning to prepare for MAT exam in future. They would also gain from this. So do hit the like button and do share it with your friends also. So with this, I have come to the end of this session. Thank you for watching this.